So in the first 2 chapters of Exodus, our attention has been drawn to the multiplication of Israel, the rise and kind of the fall of Moses, but also the increased suffering of the people of God. But their cries have reached the ears of God. God has seen, God has remembered, God knows, and He's ready to act. Chapter 3, verse 1, we find that Moses is a shepherd, keeping a flock of his father-in-law Jethro. And as he's out with his flock, he comes to a mountain called Horeb, the mountain of God. Another name for the mountain will also be Mount Sinai. Moses is near this mountain, and he looks and he sees something strange on the mountain. There's this bush that is on fire. But yet when he looks at it closer, it's not actually being consumed, and he doesn't know. He says, I'm gonna go over there, I'm gonna take a look at this. I've never seen anything like this. Well, verse 4. When the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called to him out of the bush, Moses, Moses. And he said, here I am. And that is very similar to the call of Abraham, right? Abraham, Abraham, here I am. Moses, Moses. And he says, here I am. And then Exodus 3:5. Then God said, do not come near, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. Why? Because God is there. And wherever God is, that's holy ground. Don't come even close. Take the sandals off your feet, because this place is holy ground. And verse 6, and God said, I am the God of your father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And how does Moses respond in the presence of God? He hides his face because he's afraid to look at God. And then the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people down in Egypt. I know their suffering. Verse 8, and I have come down to deliver them out of the Egyptians, to take them back to the land of Canaan. It says, their cries have come up to me. And Moses probably hears this, and he's probably all rejoicing over this news. This is great news. God has heard. He has remembered. He's about to act. All until verse 10. Come, I will send you to Pharaoh. Up until that point, I think Moses probably thought it was good news. But come, I'll send you, Moses, to Pharaoh, so that you can bring my people out of Egypt. And Moses now thinks that's not good news. That's not a good idea. And he begins his objections. Verse 11. But Moses said to God, and you could imagine how he would say this, who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt? I mean, Moses hears God telling him, I want you to deliver the people, to lead them out. And Moses says, I think in all humility before the Lord, but God, who am I to do such a thing? And look at God's response. An amazing response in verse 12. And God said, but I will be with you. See, Moses says, but God, who am I? And God doesn't say, this is who you are. He says, no, I will be with you, Moses. And that will make all the difference. And this will be the sign for you that I have sent you. When you go down and get those people, you're going to be right back here on this mountain serving me. It's going to happen. This is God's promise. But Moses says to God in verse 13, his second kind of objection. But if I go to the people and I tell them, the God of your fathers, showed up and sent me to you, they're going to ask, what's his name? What should I tell them? Verse 14, Exodus 3:14. And God said to Moses, I am who I am. Say this to the people of Israel. Say, I am has sent me to you. what does that mean? I mean, what kind of name is that? I am who I am. That's God's name. That's how God is revealing himself to Moses. What does that mean? What do you think? What does that communicate? I am is the name of God. So he says, go down and tell the people that I am going to deliver you. And I'm not just going to deliver you. You're going to one day leave Egypt with all sorts of possessions. The Egyptians are going to want to get you out of there. And they're going to be giving you all their stuff. And we think, how likely is that? But then we also think, wait a second. Didn't God tell Abram that back in Genesis 15? And now God is telling Moses, go tell this to the people. I'm about to do it in your generation. Well, what will Moses say to that? Verse 1 of chapter 4. But Moses answered, but behold, they will not believe me or listen to my voice, because they're going to say the Lord didn't appear to you. See, God says they will listen, and Moses says they will not believe me, Lord. And so God tells Moses, well, what do you got in your hand? It says a staff. Says throw it on the ground. Becomes a snake, and probably Moses like running away. But the Lord said to Moses, well, put out your hand and catch it by the tail. That's how you want to catch a snake, right? And it became a staff in his hand. He said, do that in front of the people. Or put your hand in your coat. And Moses does. He pulls it out, and his hand's like a leper. And he says, well, put it back in. And it's healed. He says, God, and God says, look, if they're not going to believe you, do these signs. It'll help you to convince them. Or you can take water from the Nile, and I'll turn it into blood. These things will help the people to believe you if you're concerned that they're not going to believe you. But then Moses gets to the most direct objection of all. Chapter 4, verse 10. But Moses said to the Lord, oh my Lord, I'm not eloquent. God, I can't talk good. I can't talk good. Send somebody else. Don't send me. Send anybody else. Just don't send me. And look at God's response. Verse 11. Then the Lord said to him, who has made man's mouth? Who makes him mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? So go. I'll be with your mouth. I'll teach you what to say. But he said, oh my Lord, just send somebody else. And then the anger of the Lord was against Moses. It says, well, what about your brother? He can speak. I'll let your brother join you, and you together can go to Pharaoh. And now Moses has no more objections. But think of this back and forth. Moses says things like, who am I? And God says, I will be with you. And then Moses at the end says, but I can't speak well. And God says, who made your mouth? I will be with you to do all that I've called you to do. And Moses still doesn't want to do it. Says, send somebody else. And God says, I'll bring somebody with you, your brother, so that you can go together to one of the most powerful beings on earth, one of the most powerful kings on earth. And you can tell the king, let all these slaves go. And God says, you're not just going to lead them out. The people of Egypt are going to want to give you all their stuff when you leave. They'll give you all their valuables to get you out. You think, how likely is that? Can God really do that through guys like Moses and his brother Aaron? We'll have to keep reading to find out.